Welcome back to Young Turks. We are in conversation with Bhavish Aggarwal of OLA. Bhavish, you've described the situation in India as far as the competition with Uber is concerned as, as a sort of quasi-Vietnam war where you're the gorilla and Uber is the one that's carpet bombing, much like the Americans did, with discounts and subsidies to consumers trying to buy market share. As the sort of underdog in the war, what do you see your role as, and what is the sort of guerrilla strategy that you have? Talk us through it.
See, I hope people take that analogy in the spirit of the analogy, but it's our responsibility as a local company, and it's our opportunity to build a much more Indian business model, and that means going into niche opportunity areas, understanding our customer base and segmenting it, and building ground up for this Indian opportunity, building a local technology stack for this Indian opportunity. And that's what I mean when I say it's like the Vietnam War, where we are the local guerrillas. Each one of our employees has that spirit inside him, that he is the guy who is fighting a global behemoth, who is going to necessarily just throw money on consumer discounts or driver subsidies. But we have to be much smarter. We have to invest the money much more smarter and find the right use cases for our investment. So that's the broad theme in which that analogy is very applicable. And within that theme, one key opportunity that we see is electric mobility. Now, as an Indian and as a young Indian, it is obviously a dream of ours to make our country pollution-free. And the best way we can do that is to make our vehicles electric. And there's been some work around the world that's happening in this space. China is doing some things. America, obviously, we see Tesla growing. But India is still yet to grow on the electric mobility space. So our view is, can Ola, given its scale and reach in the country, help accelerate this journey for our country and for the Indian automobile ecosystem? And we are taking a very long-term view on this, very strategic view on this, that can we work with all these stakeholders like the auto OEMs, the government, the battery manufacturers, etc. And can we co-create an electric mobility solution unique to India, which helps our cities become less polluted, and which also eventually builds a much more relevant solution for the Indian market. And we are very excited about the opportunity there. It'll still be a while till the economics eventually play out, but we are taking a long-term bet on this technology and on this space, and you will see many things from us in the near future in this.
All right. So how far have things progressed? Are there certain markets, certain governments that you're in talks with already, certain OEMs that you're already speaking with? There were reports of you having tied up with certain young startups in the Telangana region, for instance. Any merit to those? And can you share with us some sort of timelines on what we can expect when?
Yes, we are talking to many governments, and the great thing is the governments have shown a lot of support and encouragement and excitement about this initiative of ours. And we will be launching a few pilots very soon, in the next few weeks. And you will hear more when we launch them. But our goal is to launch a few pilots in the next few months, and then take learnings from that and scale it into a big initiative.
All right. So you spoke of governments, and I'm going to bring this up because on the one hand, certain governments and even the central government seems to be very progressive on kind of doing these things, trying these new things out. And on the other hand, they will put you back 2 steps, in certain situations. How do you deal with that? How big is, say, for instance, your policy team? Have you all, so these sectors are kind of just running ahead of any sort of regulation, not just in India, but globally. From a sort of defensive mechanism earlier, are you all becoming now actually more proactive in engaging with the government to formulate these regulations and so on? Something like electric vehicles is going to be massive because, you have to look at charging points, you have to look at an entire sort of network that needs to come up around it. And they will facilitate that, but then they will say, okay, you can't price your cabs in a certain way unless there's a yellow signage somewhere, you can't run, How do you deal with it?
The government is not one entity.
Right.
And that's very important for us entrepreneurs to realize. India is a federal structure, number one, and transportation is the best concurrent example, where both the center and the state legislate on it. And within the state also, there are many bodies who might be relevant and might have authority over different parts of this transportation value chain. And it's important, and it's our responsibility for us to engage with all of them and sell our vision to them and work with them and collaborate with them. I have always experienced governments to be very progressive and collaborative in general. Sometimes they might have a point of view which might make them seem that they're moving us in the opposite direction. But whenever we have engaged with them, it has always ended up in the right state for the ecosystem and for our industry. So that's our philosophy. We want to work with the governments and in collaboration and in co-creation of the opportunity of both the ride sharing or the electric mobility or whichever opportunity that we see.
Okay. In terms of, rolling out something like this is going to, I would imagine, take massive investments, and that brings us to the point of the amount of money that you've raised. About in the vicinity of 1.5 billion or so, if you, just pick it up from Crunchbase and nowhere else.
Yeah.
And there are reports now that you might be looking at raising another round from R&T Capital, which is Mr. Ratan Tata's fund, along with University of California. Any merit in that? Are you actively looking to raise more money? Are you in the market for talks? And generally, what is your opinion on how we look at down rounds or how something like that is reported? Do you think that, we need to actually look at these companies from a 10, 15-year point of view, and in that, a down round, hey, it doesn't really matter?
So we don't, as a matter of policy, comment on fundraisers publicly, and hence I won't be able to comment on your question. The other part of the question is a very interesting point, and I'm glad that you've raised it. I feel the ecosystem, starting with the entrepreneurs and then the media and everybody, needs to separate valuation from value creation. And my personal philosophy is valuation is a very market-driven phenomenon. It can go up one day, it can go down one day. But value creation is a very independent task, and value creation means, are you adding value to your customers' lives? Are you improving your product? Are you improving your quality? Are you adding value to your partner lives? In our case, that's our drivers. Are you fundamentally innovating on technology? Right? That's the core value creation. And at Ola, our ethos has always been one of value creation. And I believe our metrics on that and our yardstick on that, it always keeps moving forward. And that's our focus. Can we keep creating more value for society? And as a result, we'll capture some of that value.
All right. Well, last couple of questions before we wind this down, and we actually want to talk about your entrepreneurial evolution, so to speak. You mentioned that you have that Banya gene in you, and that's the one that keeps kind of making you think of how the business or the dhanda is doing. But when you think of vision and when you think of scale, what is the kind of vision that you have for the company going forward? And do you think that over a period of time, you're going to be able to scale up your own entrepreneurial growth to manage that?
See, our mission is to build affordable mobility for every single Indian. And we are very, very early in that journey. Today we do upwards of 1 million rides a day. There are 1.25 billion people in this country. So we are serving about 0.1% of that population every day. So it's very, very underpenetrated, our entire industry. And our focus is to keep going deeper and deeper into this market and keep building better distribution channels, better relevant products and services for our customers, better ways on technology for customers to access them and experience them, right? So that will always be a key focus for us. And I think we are just in the first chapter of this industry. And there's a long way to go. And this is a multi-year effort. Maybe it'll take us a decade for us to really get to a penetration like how the telecom industry got to. Actually, the telecom industry is one of the industries which is very similar to how our industry will grow. It took a while for telecom penetration to grow, but it became such a huge industry after that. So that's our focus, that's our mission, building affordable mobility for everybody. And in terms of my personal entrepreneurial growth and journey, I think everybody has to always keep learning, right? My past 6 years of being an entrepreneur has been so much learning.
What has been your biggest learning in these years?
It's tough to point out one single learning.
That, like, I'm sure you kind of sit down with yourself sometimes and reflect. And the Bhavish of, 8 years ago is not the Bhavish of today. What is the change?
The biggest learning is not any single instance, but the biggest realization for especially an engineer like myself is that business is about people. It's not about math or business models, etc. And when we are in a business where we have so many drivers on one side, driver partners, so many customers on the other side, and we have a very young team delivering on all these things, it's about, can we make sure our team is very passionately energized towards the mission that we have. And we are a very mission-driven company. And I believe a mission-driven company can really address a large opportunity like this and create fundamental societal change. As Ola grows, the mission for Ola and the goal for our people is, can we create more employment? Can we reduce congestion in our cities? Can we reduce pollution in our cities? And we will always be committed to that cause.
All right. Has it been difficult bringing in outside senior level talent and then retaining it? What are some of the learnings been there? We've seen, Rajiv Bansal spent less than a year, moved on. There have been some senior departures as well. What is it that doesn't work, and what have been some of your learnings going forward? Because when the company is scaling and the kind of vision that you have, it's not going to be all entrepreneurial. You will have to continue bringing in, seasoned professionals to manage certain parts of the business.
We've had a talent philosophy of growing people from within and getting experienced hands from outside. And if you look at our senior leadership today, it's a very good mix of both. A lot of my senior core leaders are people who have been with us for 4 or 5 years, who are roughly my age, 30 or late 20s or 30-year-old, and they're handling large parts of our business and doing really well at it. And we've supplemented that talent base with a lot of senior people we've hired. We have people from the FMCG industry at a senior level, from many different industries, telecom industry at senior levels at Ola, and it's important for companies like ourselves to have this good mix of youth, passion, and experience.
People say, Bhavish, that you're very instinctive, right, in terms of launching new products, features on the platform, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. Ola Cafe, for instance, didn't take off. What were the learnings there? I mean, do you feel that you perhaps put in effort into something, took your eyes off something else, or do you feel that those initiatives were ahead of time and there is room to bring that back? How do you look at this quick sort of testing, building, failing that you guys keep doing at Ola?
See, our culture is a very entrepreneurial culture, and we love to do experiments. A lot of our big hits have been experiments.
Like what is?
Like Ola Auto was an experiment. Nobody had ever thought that you will make money and build a large business from auto rickshaws, right? All of us used to think it's a passing phase. Eventually autos will be replaced by cabs. That won't happen in India. So auto started off as an experiment and in turn built our auto business. And today it's one of our larger businesses. And similarly, we have a fleet ownership company where we buy the cars. It started off as an experiment. It was not a done model anywhere else in the world, and we just said, okay, it's happened like that in the West, and we'll do it here. That was not how it happened. And a lot of our these experiments and entrepreneurial opportunities pay off well for us. And then those that don't, we learn from them. And that's the culture that we've tried to retain and grow at Ola. And I believe that is what will make sure we are always an entrepreneurial and nimble company.
So you don't come from the school of thought is do one thing and do it well.
No, we are doing one thing. We are a transportation mobility company. So we will go very deep into transportation. But within that, there are many areas of opportunity to build unique experiences for customers, right? But it's still that one app on the transportation.
Okay. All right. And what do you say to young, nimble players that are coming in? So we have a couple of them on the bike taxi space. We have some of them in the auto space as well. Very limited markets that they are working in. But, they are young startups. They are nimble in that sense. How, do you look at them at all, or do you just feel like,
No, I would encourage them. India is a large opportunity. Like I said, we are 0.1% penetrated. And that is nowhere compared to the size that we should be penetrated as an industry. So it's a very large industry, and I would really encourage anybody who wants to be in this industry. And I'm sure we can all learn from each other.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Bhavish, for joining us. Wonderful speaking with you.
Wonderful being here. Thank you.
Thank you.